Good afternoon, Pit Nation, Storm Nation, the entire bowling nation, all of you that have been joining us every week. Thank you for your support. We want to get into a couple of different things, feature a couple of different BowlU tools today. I have an update on Josh's situation with his grandfather, dealing with the death of his grandfather last week. He is not here again this week, so he asked if we could put off the drawing until next week. So keep our fingers crossed. Josh, we are thinking about you and your family, and again, sorry for what you're going through during this time. Today, I would like some comments or questions regarding what you saw last week in our video. Comments-wise, if you went outside and did any of the drills that we were featuring last week, if you had the opportunity to do those, please put your stories in. We'd love to hear your comments. Rick Benoit with BowlU has offered, if anybody wants to purchase any of the tools, you use the coupon code Brad and Josh, and that will get you 5% off any of the purchases of any of the tools. So I think that's a good thing. Rick, thank you for supporting us in doing that. I didn't even bother erasing last week's board. I want to do a quick review over what we discussed last week, and then we'll go into what I want to do this week. Last week we talked about throwing pins for distance, working on the extension sequence. The extension sequence is from your hip down to the unload sequence. It's about this long. For those of you that aren't aware, this from the side all the way up and around, this is what your ball does if we were to film you from the side, and then we track it on a screen with a line, okay? So BowlU has came up with 5 motion sequences, and when you put all of those sequences together, we call that balance in motion. The orb, I'm going to talk a little bit more about the orb today. We'll talk about that balance in motion concept. But the extension sequence is from your hip. When the ball gets down to your hip, extending, and then through that hit zone, that flat spot, this whole sequence here is called the extension sequence, okay? And that's what the throwing the pins for distance was. Obviously, you want to make sure that you maintain your balance throughout any one of these drills. You want to learn to achieve and keep pressing the limits on your ability to generate power, explosiveness, but still maintaining your balance, okay? And then, if you remember, we put some towels out on the parking lot, and we were just throwing the pins towards those targets. We do that drill so you can start to feel the difference in, wow, there's a little bit more friction, so maybe I need a little more ball speed. The answer is not necessarily always to just move left or right to try to find more oil. The answer certainly is not always to go to a lower friction ball. If you're in friction, sometimes you want to have the ability to dial up your ball speed a little bit to be able to get through that friction, okay? So we put those towels on the parking lot out there, and we were just throwing pins at them, and then for the shorter targets, obviously that's a slower ball speed. I've been doing these drills with a couple of students, and they've been reporting back to me and sending me videos over what they've been doing, and there's tremendous progress in what they're doing just by working outside during this time of shutdown. So take advantage of that. We talked about the orb briefly last week, rolling it into the side of the building. As far as using the orb from a full approach, wow, that's in order to maintain the proper coordination that you need when you have the bowling ball in your hand, the orb is a great tool. We get a lot of questions about, is the orb a good tool for people that throw it with two hands? And the answer is yes. With all the excessive movements that our body needs to do for today's power game, you know, your body's moving a whole lot more, a lot of moving parts, more than just the old traditional when I was growing up. Nice and quiet. Keep everything quiet, shoulders parallel to the foul line. Well, we don't have that anymore in today's game. So with all the excessive movements that we have, yes, that orb is a great tool. Even though you have that orb wound up right here and you learn to throw it, yes, you still have to generate that sort of motion. So the orb is a great tool for the two-handers as well. And then we talked about the game turkey, to where we had those obstacles on the wall, and we used the BowlU feel ball to be able to do that as a way to simulate what are the conversations that you are having when you get up in the 10th and you need a double. As I pause, I just want to say forgive my slight shortness of breath today. I'm having some back issues up in the middle of my back today, so I'm having some problems taking a deep breath. My lungs expand and then push on that nerve that's pinched back up here. So if I sound out of breath, it's not just because I'm out of shape, it's because I have a slight back issue again this week. All right, so if you did any of these last week or throughout this past week, please put it in the comments and let us know how it went. What I want to talk about this week, we want to feature the BowlU pin. This pin, what we used to do when in the early days of this drill, we took these bowling pins and Rick and I actually drilled thumb holes, and we would come in with 20 different pins, and they would all have different drill bit sizes of thumb holes in the bottom of the pin. Well, now BowlU makes this pin and actually has a hole right in the bottom of the pin. And this one, Rick has made it so you can end up using your interchangeable thumb in the bottom of the pin. The new pins, if you hold this end of the pin, the heavy end of the pin will flop down. So the top of the pin isn't as rigid as this is. It's nice and wobbly, okay? What we use that for is the swing transition in the back of the swing. So if you hold this at the top of the pin and you swing this, if you get it up here to the top and you pull down, then the top of the bottom of the pin will actually bend and you'll feel that play. You want to coordinate that swing so that all of the timing issues is the same, so the pin stays like this and doesn't end up bending either way. Okay, so this was one of the prototype pins that I had here from when Rick was here last summer, coming up with the brains behind these tools. So I brought this one out, but I thought I would explain the newer pin and what it's for. Also, putting your thumb in the bottom of the pin. We use this so that whatever direction we're pointing the pin, we want to be able to rotate that pin in that direction. And you want to get good at this. Flopping the pin, throwing the pin down, working with the acceleration. As the top of the pin is going down, the back of the pin is going up. So we want to create that rotation. Whatever direction your pin is, you still want to flop it in that direction. Now, even though I make it look pretty easy now, I'm nowhere near as explosive as many of the people that we have using this as a drill. When I first started with this, remember, I was still on tour. This is a couple of years ago when Rick first started coming out with this. I put this in my hand and I went to throw it, and I still had the remnants of the old lifting. So if you can see, I would go like this, and this would come forward. We've actually had some students, they got to be careful, because when they lift, the old school lift, this top of the pin would come back and almost hit him in the head. We actually had a couple times where people did get hit a little bit. So the idea is you have this out here, and you want the top of the pin to be going down and the back of the pin rotating up. This is generating the thumb exit and coordinating that thumb exit with the acceleration of the swing. It's not a lifting up as much as it is letting it fall fast, and as it's starting to fall, you kick the back of it, making it go this way, okay? So it looks like this. Notice my wrist position as I do this drill. This wrist goes from a tension position, a strength position, to a completely tension-free this way. So whatever direction that you're facing this pin, if it's this way, learn to flop it. And you can get flopping it really fast. And I'm nowhere near as good as some of the people that we have. But whatever direction that this is going, you want to be able to flop it in that direction. Okay? So let's say I had a swing. Still flopped it in that direction. So there's not really a lift as much as it is where you're exiting the thumb. Learning this drill will also give you some miss room. And when we talk about miss room out on the lanes, we're not talking about missing a little bit right or missing a little bit left. We're talking about the distance zones. The friction zone that you are using, you just don't know you're using it, okay? And that's something we can talk about in BowlU camps or workshops. This modern release, the thumb exit with acceleration, is very important to be able to maintain control over your good ball motion as oil's moving around, as transition is happening, okay? So once you get good at being able to master this release, you can end up featuring this release anywhere in your swing. You can do it back here. You can do it here. If you miss it a little bit timing wise, if you miss it within that zone, you're still generating the same type of initial ball rotation off your hand, and that will help give you room distance wise. If your ball reads a couple feet sooner, you still have the same rotational control on it. If your ball, maybe you missed that one a little bit, but you still achieved the good release. Okay, the ball's still going to read very similar from one shot to the next and have a better control over that transition. Is Rick on?
Rick's on.
Okay.
Heather also said she's got some stretches and stuff she can do to help your back.
Okay.
And Mike Simon wanted to ask where you can get these tools.
These tools, BowlUProducts.com, BowlUProducts.com. Rick, if you could, put the link up right now, so as I'm mentioning it, that people can go ahead and see it come up on the screen. My understanding is there's a little delay from what I'm actually saying right now to the time that you're actually seeing it through the video stream. So it might be 15 seconds or 20 seconds. It might be up by now because I'm explaining it. The point is it's BowlUProducts.com. Use the coupon code Brad and Josh for a discount on the tools and products. And the reason we're doing that is we want to try to see really how much of an influence Josh and I are having throughout the industry, to be honest with you. I know many pros and other people that Rick has been working with. They've been posting videos of using outside, using these BowlU products. And Rick was telling me the other day that his sales, the orders for these products are continuing to go up during this downtime of this whole Corona shutdown. And so we thought we would offer a coupon code so we can tell how many of those orders are a direct result over what we're doing. Hopefully we are having a good effect on things. Okay?
Josh said the coupon code is Brad and Josh Show.
Okay, Brad and Josh Show.
Although there was spaces in there, which I find weird for coupon code. Can we, Rick.
Time out.
Yeah,
Rick, please put the coupon code that you would like everybody to use if they're going to purchase something. Put the coupon code right in right now as to what you would like. And then those of you watch for it in about 10 or 15 seconds. It should fly up there so that everybody knows and everybody's all on the same page. Rick, I hope I did this justice. If there's anything else you want me to add, let me know, and then I'll go back to it. But that's the BowlU release pin, featuring the proper release, the exiting of the thumb with the acceleration. Wherever you do it within this zone, it still looks the same. And then when you start talking about your axis rotation, you can end up putting a little more axis rotation or less axis, but you still have to collapse the wrist in that direction, okay? As I just said that, I thought about something. When we're talking about bowling balls, obviously a ball rotating that way, that would be 90 degrees rotation. 90 degrees tilt. Okay? This way is tilt. This way is rotation. Right here would be 90 degrees rotation. So, Tim, as an example, Tim's been working on getting his tilt a little bit lower. In today's environment, you don't really want a lot of tilt because too much tilt is very sensitive to transition. Yes, you can get lined up to the pocket. Yes, you can repeat shots and you're very good physically. But when we're talking about the amount of oil that's on the lane, the thickness of the oils, the strength of the balls, the peeling oil off different distance zones, repositioning oil down lane, urethane balls going down the lane, there's a lot going on as far as the oil movement in today's game. The more tilt that you have, the more sensitive that your ball roll is to that oil movement. Okay? It doesn't mean you can't be great. There's a couple of guys on tour that have tilt, but there's a couple in my mind that have struggled in recent years who are great bowlers, great execution bowlers, but because of their ball roll, they really struggle. And it's because of the formats that we have on tour, crossing pairs, trying to navigate that invisible course as it's moving around. You end up giving up 2 or 3 frames, it feels like, every single game just because you have too much tilt. So what we want is we want as little tilt as possible, and then learn to use rotational. Okay? So obviously, I don't think you really want 0 degrees rotation. You know, the ball's not going to do anything. You have to have a little rotation in order for it to change directions laterally. But somewhere between, and I'm going to put a number on it at the risk of freaking all of you out. Oh my gosh, I got to have that number. No, you don't have to have that number. You need to learn to use your ball roll? What is it that you do? And then if you're going to make changes, you want to make changes based on transition in mind. If you're the type of bowler that has a lot of tilt, just know that, wow, I'm going to struggle on some patterns because that oil's moving around the lane so fast, okay?
How much rotation do you have, Brad?
I have about 30 degrees rotation. And believe it or not, I have about 15 degrees of tilt. It's not the end of the world. It doesn't really matter that I have either of those. What matters is the range of rotation that I can change on call. So this is like a speedometer, okay? So if my normal release yields 30 degrees rotation, do I have the ability to use a little more rotation and or a little less rotation based on what? Based on my strategic choices. At the beginning of the block, when the back ends are fresh and the pattern is freshly applied, I lean towards using less axis rotation. I lean on using more of this type of ball roll. Why? Why do you do that? Because I know the lanes are going to transition. And so if I get lined up using less angle, less rotation, then I know as I get control of the pocket that I'm not going to experience that much change as far as transition and oil movement is going on, okay? I want to maintain control of the pocket for as many frames as I possibly can in a row. Then, as the pattern is evolving, maybe you get towards the end of the first, maybe midway through the second game, I might start sliding up the scale of rotation. Now, this is just one of the variables that I can use at my disposal. It's not just rotation. It's rev rate, it's speed, launch angles, distance zones, friction zones. There was something really loud. I don't know if you heard that.
Sound like a dump truck or something.
Yeah, like a dump truck or like an explosion or something like that. I don't know.
I'm going to go for a dump truck.
It was pretty loud. All right, it was a dump truck. Wow, that threw me for a loop. Speed, rev rate, axis rotation, grip tension, lateral zones. Lateral zones that BowlU speaks about are outside of the track, in the track, and left of the track. 3 lateral zones that you want to learn to be able to use. And we're not going to get into that here. Distance zones, friction zones. Which friction zone are you using and why are you choosing to use that friction zone? Friction zones as they relate to the angles of entry. Those are all strategic choices that we have. And then you have ball choices. Slow response time balls, medium slow, medium quick, and then quicker response time balls. And then you have surface preparations. And then you have cover stocks, and you have cores, and RG numbers, and layouts of a particular ball. All of that stuff, being able to mix all of that together and make a choice as to, at some times, choosing to go to a quicker response time ball might be a better choice. Yeah, but you know, I'm only at the end of game 1. I don't want to jump all the way to a quick response ball now. I want to be using some of these other subtle changes. I don't want to make these big jumps. Why? Because I got to maintain control of the pocket for as long as I can. Okay? All right, so that's just rotation. I just wanted you to know that when we talk about axis rotation, we're talking about this. So this BowlU block, we used this last week. This would be more tilt. And before we went live, I was talking with Rick, and he was talking about, you got all of the people in today's environment, they're trying to get their shoulder low, and they're trying to keep their hand inside the ball, and without even knowing it, they're getting their hand more like this. Well, look what that transitions to tilt-wise. Entering the unload sequence, entering the release sequence, this is okay to have this be here. But as the ball's coming off, you see Guy's hand get all the way down to here. Tim, we worked on this last week. Did you happen to, I showed you those videos of some of the best guys, what they do. Mm-hmm. So mention that a little bit as to what you saw and what that meant to you, because Tim stays here and rotates from here to where he still applies too much tilt.
I use my hand and my wrist a lot more than I should be by letting it uncoil kind of and releasing at the end. So yeah,
down to here and then getting this rotational control.
So I probably, before last week, I probably was at what, maybe 30 to 40 degrees tilt ish.
I would say at least that, to be honest with you. Yeah. Yep. And Tim's been bowling some of the tournaments on the weekends. A month ago, there's no tournaments to bowl now, and he's one of the good guys that you got to watch for. But we end up talking, and he says, "Yeah, geez, I really struggled on that pair. Why do you think that was?" Well, you got so much tilt. That ball sensed all that oil down lane, and you only have 5 shots on that lane. And with excessive tilt, he doesn't have a lot of options to go to be able to get that tilt down so he can use an earlier friction zone so the ball doesn't see that oil down lane.
Yeah, especially on that longer oil pattern where I felt like I had trouble getting really any ball motion because of not being able to get those friction zones.
Okay, so the block. What we want to do with the block is whatever direction that we're holding this block, we want to be able to unravel it and throw it down and still keeping this axis. I want you to know that the width of this block is the same as the width of a bowling ball. So when your hand's in this block, guess what? It's the same as when the hand's in the bowling ball. So if the axis is over here and I get too much hand going this way, by the time I release it, I'm releasing it with too much tilt. You see the rotational axis here, versus being able to get your hand, even if it is here as it enters the release zone, getting down to here so that the rotational control is going in the direction as to where the pins are. Okay? Rick, if there's anything you want me to show on this. So obviously, if you want a little bit more rotation, you can end up throwing this way. This is like that old, not very usable football, throwing the football with a spiral. Used to see that a lot. The problem with that is that when you get this way, nobody was teaching to get this way. Okay? So whatever direction you are, you want to be able to rotate it in that direction. Less rotation. Just a little bit more rotation. So whatever direction you put that, you want to be able to rotate it in that direction. Now, lower rev rate. Medium rev rate. Higher rev rate. For me, my range, my repeatable range. Okay, so that's a good little drill that you can work on. Let's say you're in an environment, this is small enough you can fit it right in your bowling bag. So let's say you're in an environment where, wow, you just shot 227 and 248, and you get to the next pair of lanes, and you feel like, man, I need a little bit more rotation. But you're still not good. You're still learning how to manipulate those. Well, pull out your block, and before you get up there, that next shot, okay, this is where I was, okay, so this is where I want to be, and get good that feel that we're talking about over what you're going to feel the next shot. Okay?
A question from Brian about if we can take a slow motion video of Brad showing the release. I can post one, or you can just do one in kind of a slower, but I can't do it. I can't necessarily take a slow motion video.
Okay, so I'll do one from the side. A little faster. Little faster. Now I'm going to engage throwing it down. And look what happens to my elbow. My elbow is extending too. Now even faster. So it's that coordination with the acceleration and the thumb exit. The beauty of this is you don't have your thumb in the ball. So the thumb exit already happens. So you're just teaching and training yourself to do, I heard a lot of people talk about it, the yo-yo idea. And that's great. If that's what you have to feel, that's great. But being able to add the rotation. Now if you add more rotation, slow, I'm still folding back this way. Notice my elbow, I was playing with the dogs this morning. I got some scratches on my arm there. Michelle's not abusing me, don't worry. So as you add more rotation, you don't want this to rotate down. You want to keep this at the pins. This elbow needs to supinate, be able to stay in. You want the elbow to stay in. This can move for rotation, but you don't want this coming down to achieve rotation, okay? Keep this here, and now have this fold back this way. So that's what it looks like on the slower side. Okay? Does that answer your question? Give me a thumbs up if that makes sense. I have to wait the 20 seconds.
Yeah, all right.
In every single video, I've asked a question, and I'm like, okay, give me the thumbs up if it makes sense. And then there's no thumbs up. I'm like, what? So I'm not reaching anybody. I never even dawned on me, or it never even made sense to me that there was that long of a delay in between what I was saying and what you were seeing in your real time. But I think that made sense. Tim, does that make sense?
Yeah,
what I just did?
that was a little bit better, showing it a little bit slower, I think, a little bit closer up.
All right. So I didn't really want to get into all of this stuff, but I just want you to pay attention to, I think it's important for each one of you, everybody. You don't have to know the exact number that you are. You don't have to know the exact amount of tilt that you have. You don't have to know the exact degree of rotation that you have. How fast you throw it. What your rev rate is. You don't have to know those exact things. What you need to know is where you are within your repeatable range. So let's say that this is speed. Maybe you don't have that big of a range. Maybe your range is, this is just how fast I throw it, and whenever I try to go a little faster or a little bit slower, now I can't repeat. Okay, I used to be there. So what you want to do is when you go to practice, you want to work on, let me get just a little bit faster or a little bit slower, until you get to the point to where you can widen that range and have a nice repeatable range. Maybe you don't have a range of rev rate. How do you make your rev rate higher? What's the easiest way to make your rev rate higher? You quicken up your hand. Just quicken up the length of time within your swing that it takes to achieve this motion. So as an example, Tim, watch. So this, if I'm wanting a lower rev rate for me, I try to feel like this whole collapse of my hand takes a long time in the swing. Well, I want a little higher rev rate. So I might quicken up, not my swing, I might quicken up the length of time that it takes with it. Well, man, I need a higher rev rate now. Wow, I need an even higher rev rate. Then, for me, I try to feel like I'm engaging my elbow and getting my elbow a little bent to here, so that I can get this going first, and then this. Wow, and that's about it for me. But guess what? The guys that have the really high rev rate on tour, you watch them in slow motion from the side, and their elbow gets to here. What does this look like? Looks like the two-handed guys. Now, the one-handed guys, they have to have mastered the art of getting their thumb out of the ball, the exit of their thumb as they're accelerating. And that's not that easy. That's one of the reasons that the two-handed players have such a huge advantage. They don't have to get out of the ball. The thumb exit isn't a factor for them. And I don't want to get into, in a video like this, what, does that make it right or wrong or bad or good? Two-handers are this or that. I don't want to have an opinion on that for a video like this. Other than to be able to say, that's what they do, therefore, they're already in this position. So when it's time to accelerate, all they have to do is accelerate and collapse. They don't have to get their thumb out in the right spot. And that's where that rev rate comes, from this being all wound up. As I'm doing this video, last week it was dark in our bar area. I'm actually seeing my reflection in the bar, so my eyes keep looking this way because I'm watching what it looks like. This is exactly what two-handed people look like. If you watch them in slow motion, okay? So quicken up your hand if you want a quicker or a higher, slightly higher rev rate. But whatever your rev rate is, maybe you are really low rev rate. Whatever the actual number is, that's not the important thing. The important thing is, where can you go from there? Do you have the ability to have a little higher or a little lower rev rate? Do you have a wide range that you can repeat of rev rate? Acceleration. Acceleration. Do you have a range of acceleration? Did I spell that right? A-C-C-E-L. Will you stop it?
I just forgot to kind of just let you go.
Shut up, Tim. Yeah. Do you have an acceleration range? Do you have a rotation range? Do you have a speed and rev rate goes together? We talk about, being matched up. You can throw a ball down a lane and they take this number and that number, and are you matched up? Guess what? That's all relative to the pattern you're bowling on. It's all relative to the oil that you're on at that time, where your ball's reading. Somebody's saying something. Tim's smiling. Who's saying something?
Angelo needs spell check. Walter Palmer.
Yeah. How about Walter Palmer? How about you try to get here and still be talking and writing and having your brain separate that? Yeah, let's see you do that. All right. The BowlU skill development tools. Those are the components that we're trying to teach you by using the BowlU skill development tools. Okay? The orb for rotational control as well. I had a student just the other day, we noticed that in one video, excuse me, from a couple weeks ago, he could only take this orb up to about here. As he got better, a week ago, he could take the orb up higher. But that really affected what he did down to the hit zone. You want to know why? Because he didn't even realize that he wasn't balancing it on the two fingers like this. He was using tension with his pinky finger and his thumb to hold on to this. That allowed him to be able to just swing it up really high and do whatever he wanted up through here. Okay, did you get that?
Not the whole thing, but
So I'm not even touching with that, I'm just squeezing it from the outside. You don't want tension on the outside when you're using this orb. You want the two fingers in the ball that you use. Maybe a little guide with this. Maybe this, if that's what you do in the ball. But you want to avoid squeezing it, manipulating it from the outside of the orb, okay? So that you can get to the point where you can get to here and control it. Okay? This part of the drill, this is where you can get good at maintaining it. Okay? And then when you get down to the end, getting to flop it that way. Now watch my release. Watch the wrist. There's that same move again that we're teaching with the release pin. Well, why not just get the orb? Well, you can if you got to work on the other motion sequences of getting to the top of your swing. But this pin is for down here, when your thumb is in the bottom of the pin. And then when you're holding the top of the pin, this pin helps coordinate up through here. And then on the way down, are you pulling it down or are you allowing the pin to take the weight down? Rick calls that, or BowlU calls that, weight, W-A-I-T, on the weight, W-E-I-G-H-T. That's for you, Walter. Weight on the weight. Get to the top of the swing. Don't let the neck of that pin pull down and lag the bottom of the pin behind. Weight on that weight so that you can get down to the release zone, the unload sequence, and then whap. Thumb exit, accelerate in an instant to get your rev rate where you want it. Okay? I think that's pretty much it for today. Anything else? This was a short one today, wasn't it?
yeah, we started just a little bit after noon. I don't know what time it is now. Scrolling through, a lot of comments, a lot of guys talking back and forth. Marlo says, just say the word, Brad, I'll take care of them for you. But,
Short one today?
yeah, let's see.
Okay.
Much else going on here. Any other questions, guys, real quick? We can, before we get off the channel
Did
here.
Rick put the, you gotta put
No,
the
just a
space
space.
in. And
Josh.
show. Okay. For coupon code.
5% off your BowlU Tools purchases.
BowlU / products?
No, products.com.
Okay. So 5% off coupon code.
No.
Huh? Is that okay? I say that right?
Yeah, I'm just confused by Rick's comment. He said no S, like, oh, BowlUProduct.com. I thought he was talking about the coupon code. I was like, that would be Brad and Josh Ho.
Okay, watch this. It's not BowlU Products. It's BowlU Product.com.
Guys, we'll put all these links and stuff in the comments here right after. You can see Rick's comments. He's got the coupon codes and the link right there for your purchases. But yeah, no other questions. So
Okay, quick one today. Next week, now listen, for those of you, please continue to share this. Please, let's help us get our views up so we can continue to make an impact. 2 weeks ago, we issued the challenge. If we get up to over 15,000 views, that we would give away the bowling ball. Whoop, all of a sudden, everybody shares it and likes it and shares it, and we got the views up. And then, I don't know what we had last week. We've been averaging somewhere between 4 and like 6 or 7,000, I think. Is that about right, Tim?
Probably, yeah. I actually didn't look at what last week's was.
I mean, help us out. There's a large number of people doing these sorts of things, especially just during our shutdown. Some of them, they make me chuckle. I know they're trying to do a good thing, but some of them, their heart's in the right place. And then others are very, very good. Storm Products is doing theirs, the Morning Bolt. So please tune into the Morning Bolt in the mornings at 9 o'clock Central Time. So it ends up being out here in the East Coast. It's 11 o'clock. They had Norm Duke on. They had an interview with Deandra Asbady. Today was Frank DeSocio. So they've been trying to do a lot of good things too. Stu Williams, a good friend of mine, Chris Barnes, they're doing the Beef and Barnsey show. Give them a shout out, go on and help their views get up there. All of us are trying to do a good thing for our prospective companies. If there's anything I can help you with, just reach out to me. Reach out to me as a comment on here. I get a lot of messages through Facebook Messenger that I don't even see for like 2 or 3 weeks because I don't check it a whole lot. So if you try to get in touch with me through Facebook Messenger and I don't respond to you, that's the reason why, because I don't even see it. So I guess other than that, continue to support us, and thanks for joining in. Next week we'll be doing the drawing, and Josh will hopefully be back for that bowling ball. Okay?
Real quick before we go, Dan was asking about when our class dates are, if there's any. I'm not sure if there's any updates on anything given the current situation.
What, Dan? I've had a lot of people that have texted me, whether it be just because they have my phone number or through Facebook. That's what I was referring to. The people text me, hey, do you have any dates on BowlU, the BowlU workshop? When is Rick coming into town? I had the initial idea that it was going to be in the middle of the senior tour. I was going to be home for a month, but with the shutdown, I don't even know what to say. I don't know if there's going to be a senior tour. I don't know what the PBA is doing. I don't know if the PBA League in Portland that I was fortunate enough to get saved on Johnny Petraglia's team, the Brooklyn Styles. So everything's just up in the air. I don't have any answers for that. If the shutdown is lifted and there is no senior tour, then I will probably fill up Mondays in the summer. Start date to be determined. But the Mondays will be essential elements, and then Thursdays will be ball motion. We will have our Wednesday hump day sweeper here. So, we're just rocking or waiting to get up and running so we can rock and roll. It's pretty tough. It's a pretty tough situation. Those of you that are out of town, please get geared up when the shutdown ends to get in there and help the local bowling center that you bowl at. I know for us here, this shutdown, it's cost us. We figured it out somewhere around $70,000 to $80,000 just in revenue. that we won't be able to get that back, you know, and it's not like we were cash heavy in the bank anyways. We lost our last full month of revenue, and that was revenue, 70, 80 grand worth of revenue. So I know that's not profit, obviously, but still, you know, leagues have decided that they're not going to finish. So that revenue's just gone. I'm not sure how we're going to get through. We're just going to keep trying to take it one day at a time. Many people have talked about, why don't you apply for the government loan? Well, that's well and fine, but you have to keep all the employees on in order to qualify for that. And in entering our slow time here at the bowling center, we're struggling with, you know, do we try to take that assistance and then keep employees on to just stand around? So I'm not sure what we're going to do, to be honest with you, other than just hope and pray that everything clears up. The people who are sick, that they get the help that they need, but that our economy can get started again, and people can come back in and support your local bowling centers, as well as the other small businesses that have had to close. It's devastating what's going on. So thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Please continue to join us on Wednesdays at noon. We're trying to go live right at noon. I know some of the dates, it's been a few minutes later, but you guys have been patient. So stay safe, continue to wash your hands, and after you wash your hands, hug everybody in your family, and hopefully we'll see you next week, okay? Thank you. Appreciate it.